Well, good afternoon, listeners. Thank you so much for coming on to Lament of Hope podcast. Today I'm speaking with Wesley Eure. For those of you, especially the older generation who are listening to my podcast, but maybe some young people too, if you're like me, I enjoy old game shows like Match Game, Tattletales, and um, Password, and they're all of the older version of Password. And I came across Wesley on Match Game, and he's been though in lots of television shows like Land of the Lost and Days of Our Lives. And he's written books, he's been in theater, he's done film as well. So he's had a very lengthy career. He does some conventions throughout the year for TV shows like Land of the Lost, and I was like, this would be a really interesting guy to talk to. He's in Mexico now. He was just telling me before we started that he spends a good deal of the year there and enjoys it as a second home. And so, Wesley, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Danielle, thanks for having me. Oh my God, you made me turn my ceiling fan off. I'm in Mexico. I'm like schwitzing here. It's like, oh my goodness.
Do you have you can have a handheld fan.
Ooh, I'm like schwitzing. It's like going crazy. So if I start to sweat, it's not because I'm nervous.
No, it's okay. So if it's okay, me asking, what do you love about Mexico? Because most people that I talk to, they don't say they're in Mexico.
Yeah, I'm in Puerto Vallarta. So I spend 6 months out of the year here, and then my home is in Palm Springs, California. So basically 6 and 6. Listen, the food, the culture, the families, the traditions, I just love it. The slower pace, I get to just unplug, except for days like this where I have to plug back in. But, just walk on the beach every day and walk and meet friends. And it's just a different lifestyle. And I really love it as, as I'm getting older and winding down. So it's nice.
Well, I was going to ask you because a lot of the actors or actresses that I've talked to, like I was talking to Shani Wallace last year, and she was in, Oliver, and she's like 92 now. She's
Right.
older, and just how the older actresses or actors that I've been talking to, most of them start unplugging, at a certain point where they're not at so many things, or they're starting to just enjoy a simpler lifestyle than they did before because they were on so much.
Yeah.
And so, I wondered for you, is that hard? Because there are some individuals I've talked to where it was an adjustment. They didn't really like it at first, and it took some discipline to go, okay, I need this for myself to kind of back off and enjoy a little bit less of a in the spotlight life. Or are you just really happy that you're in this phase of your life where you don't have to constantly be doing something?
I have a great life. I really do.
Yeah.
And I love working. I just did some voiceovers for a new animated show, and I got another show that I created that's in the pipeline because I created Dragon Tales on PBS. I was one of the creators of that show. But it's been really nice to slow down but I've always traveled a lot. I love to travel. I love cruise ships. In the late 90s, I backpacked around the world. I thumbed my way through India and Pakistan and Bangladesh and Burma and Iran, Iraq, and moved to Bali, got a monkey named Frankie. So, I mean, I have always sort of lived a different kind of a nomad life. When at the same time that I was working or writing books, whatever I was doing. And so this for me has kind of been my life, just sort of, unplugging a lot. Then when I work really hard and then get all tense and run around and, try to sell shows or whatever I'm doing. And then back here. It's nice.
What happened to your monkey? I mean, I'm guessing he died.
Oh, no. It's just, so I was in Bali and with a friend of mine, and we were backpacking around the world. We moved to Bali, and we were on a motorcycle and going around the island. Bali's only like 80 miles around, and we stopped at this restaurant, and we had no money, so it was like $5 a day was our budget. That was for food and lodging and everything. But back then you could get away with it, especially in a third world country. And we went to stop at this restaurant. A Chinese guy owned it, and we couldn't afford to eat there. But he had a monkey named Frankie who was tied at the waist and tied to a tree. And and we went over there and started playing with Frankie. And the owner comes out. He goes, "Oh, you like my monkey?" I go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." He said, "Do you want to play with it?" I go, "Well, yeah." And what he they had found Frankie when he was like 1 or 2 days old at
Oh,
Sharinga
wow.
Falls, and his mother was there, and she'd tied peanut vines around her waist, and she was collecting peanuts using it as a tool. And they scared her away, and she ran off, and they left Frankie. So this man had taken Frankie since he was about this big and chewed the food and that's how we raised Frankie. Frankie was so tame, but his wife and daughter hated him, just hated him.
Oh.
And Frankie would like, "Rah," at the wife and daughter. So he said, "Come swimming with me and my daughter." And we went out into the ocean, and he put Frankie on my back, and I dove in the water and swam with Frankie. And I said, I've always wanted a monkey. And I said, "How much would it cost to buy a monkey like Frankie?" And he got dead silence, and he was angry, and he got really angry. And he goes, "Listen, you cannot buy another living creature. That's wrong. You don't own something else that's living." And I said, "I am so sorry. You were so right." And I said, "Look, I'm backpacking. But the only thing I have of value because it's my backpack was a Sony Walkman, one of those big yellow Sony Walkmans. And they just come out. They were really expensive." And I said, "I am sorry. And I want to thank you for this day. And I'd like to gift you my Sony Walkman just to apologize and to just thank you for this day." And he goes, "Really?" I go, "Yeah." He said, "Well, why don't you come at dinner with my wife and my daughters? And, the two of you guys come." And we came to dinner that night. And at the end of the dinner, I gave him the Walkman. We were talking and stuff. And without saying a word, we got back on the motorcycles. And he put Frankie on my shoulder. And he says, "Now Frankie's going to need this special leash," which was a harness around his waist. And he said, "Would you join me tomorrow? My family, we're going up the mountain, the volcano. It's a Chinese day of celebration once a year, and they honor the dead. And my family are going to go up, and we'd like you to be our guests." And I go, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, I'll see you later." And I'm driving the motorcycle home and thinking, my friend Ron, I go, "I think we have a monkey." No words were ever spoken. And we came back to the restaurant that night, brought Frankie, tied him back to his little tree. And we went up the mountain the next day. And as we were leaving to go back to Kuta Beach, which is the main tourist area, around the island, he gave us another thing. He says, "Frankie will need this." And no words were ever spoken. And Frankie began to live with us. And it was amazing. Frankie would, when I woke up, I would wrap a towel around Frankie's butt, and I would hold Frankie and sleep with me. And so we'd sleep, and I'd wake up in the morning, and Frankie would take he's about this big, would take his little hands and take the sleep out of my eyes with those claws and everything, just take the sleep out. So gentle. I'd come back from the beach, and Frankie would dust all the sand off my legs. And the Balinese were terrified of monkeys because the monkeys are mean in Bali. But Frankie had been raised so differently. But we got back to Kuta Beach, tourist area. There was a Losman, which was like a grass hut kind of hotel. It was $5 a day, included breakfast. And we remembered that place, and we took Frankie in, and there was another monkey, the same kind, because they're called bojokes. And Frankie saw Wayan, which turned out to be the name of the monkey, and they started looking at each other and crying, like reaching out, screaming, like, "Ah, ah." And I start to cry, and I'm going, "This is wrong." And Frankie was reaching out, and the owner of the Losquin said, "Put them together." I go, "No, no, 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 I don't want them to fight. No, no, no. Where's our room?" And we're going to go get something to eat. And we tied Frankie up in our room with a leash and stuff. And we came back, and the owner had taken Frankie and put him with Wayan, and they
Oh.
were holding each other, rocking. And I walked in, and I saw Frankie going like this with the Wayan, because each of them had never seen another monkey.
Oh,
And I
wow.
just started to sob. And I said, this is wrong. We can't do this. And suddenly Frankie sees me. And as he's holding Wayan, he reaches his hand out and like he's going like this, trying to grab me. And I come over and Frankie grabs me and pulls me into Wayan. And the three of us just sit and rock. And from then on, Frankie and Wayan slept with me every night with a towel wrapped around their butts. And and then I had written a book and Disney bought it for an animated feature called The Red Wings of Christmas. And it was back before cell phones in the like late to mid 90s. And I had to go back. Disney said, if you want to write the screenplay and the songs, you've got to come back. So I went back and I got a postcard. So I left Frankie with this woman that we met, who she was the Australian ambassador. We met all these fabulous people there. And because she couldn't take a primate across the border because she had to have like a license or something like that, like a zoological
Okay.
license. So I get home and I get a postcard that says, Dear Wesley, I regret to inform you that Frankie has been arrested for stealing bananas and is in prison. She said, just kidding about the bananas. She had taken Frankie to the Balinese prison because a friend of hers was locked up. And it was like, a social club back then. It wasn't like, like Alcatraz. It's a very small island. And Frankie, her friend was the gardener at the prison. And the two of them hit it off. And Frankie became the mascot of the Balinese prison until he passed away. So that's the
Wow.
story of Frankie. It was, oh my gosh. It was an amazing, amazing, amazing journey to be part of that little monkey's life. And I've gone back to Bali since. They have monkey forests, which is the same, his relatives, and they are mean. They grab your cameras, that they steal your food, and they bite you. And I mean, they're terrifying, but not Frankie.
Wow. When you said, I'm guessing, was it hard to sleep with two monkeys every
No,
night? I feel like
they
that
were,
would get
they
like,
were like this. They looked like punk rockers. The brown hair would kind of went up to a little like punk rocker little, mohawk. And Frankie was only well, when we had him, he was about this big. And I mean, they get to be a little bit, about another 5, 6 inches. But, and no, it was fabulous. It was just fabulous.
but you don't roll over on them or anything?
They can take care of themselves. They're monkeys.
Oh,
It's not like having a baby bird. It's like squash it.
well,
They're monkeys.
I say that though because I have two cats. I love my cats. I work from home during the day, and so having company with cats, because my husband works out of the house, is great. And super affectionate cats. And sometimes, I started out with the cats. I kind of thought, I can take this cat, I can hold him, and he'll sleep with me. Well, sometimes they sleep with you, but it has to be on their own terms. You can't just take them and like put them next to you.
Yep.
At least not my cats. And I would always freak out about rolling over on them. Because if you do that, cats, they like screech and then they jump up and they're like, So I
Yeah.
wondered, I'm like,
I
I
think
guess with
cats.
a monkey, maybe they'll just push you back. I don't know.
Yeah. And listen, I've had cats too in the past, and they certainly can take care of themselves. But the greatest joy that I found having a dog or a cat is spending the night with them in bed. I just find that to be the most wonderful part of owning an animal, that cuddle and that sleeping and the
Yeah.
cat curled up here, the dog's in your arm or whatever. And to me, it's the joy, the absolute, I mean, walking it and playing with it and all that stuff during the day, but going to bed at night and have the comfort of that wonderful, wonderful energy is, oh my gosh. That's the part that making me smile. That's the part that makes me love animals the most. And when you have them as pets in your home.
Well, how many pets have you had if you include monkey, Frankie? If you include like any sort of animal, how many pets
Oh
do you
gosh,
think
over
you've
the
had?
years, some cats and a bird or two, a parakeet when I was young and stuff. But mostly dogs. My last two dogs they passed away at 18. They were little rescue mutts,
Wow.
little terriers, little black furry terriers, and had them. Sony and Teaser had them for 18 years, and
How do you cope?
We ended up
Oh, go
doing
ahead.
a commercial for, I think, the Burbank Animal Shelter, where they came to the house and filmed my two. They were so loving my dogs. They were just they were every party I threw, every party, people would come over. These dogs were just, would be right in the mix.
Well, I
So
was gonna ask, how do you, because one of my cats, he's actually over here sleeping. He has we found out he has a genetic heart condition. So they said, we don't think he'll live more than this certain amount of time. And of course, I was so sad. I was like bawling in my car. Because I had never, I've used my first pet. So I've never had like an animal that was gonna, die. And I was so close. And so I always wonder, like, what is it like when your pet passes away? Like, is that a really hard, like, how do you process the experience well? Because, I've seen some people who, or I've had people even recommend to me, get his paw print done or do something so that you have some relic of him. But I guess for me, the hard part is I always feel like, well, it's just not him though.
I
Like
agree.
I get the remembrance idea, but it's just not the same. And then recently I came across even an option where you can actually have your animal stuffed, so you can like have like, and I'm like that would just freak me out. Like I just could not do that, especially because it's just no life in a stuffed thing, animal. It's not an animal anymore anyway, but um, but I've just wondered, like, if you've experienced it so many times, of having to say goodbye to like the monkey Frankie, but then also you have, animals that have died. How do you kind of process losing them? Do you just like, yeah, how do you, what is that like? I'm not
I
looking forward to it, but
Yeah. Well, it's a family member passing on. It's the same grief, sometimes sometimes more intense. In fact, here in Puerto Vallarta, there's a park. It's called the Tile Park, and it was all these cement benches, and they decided to tile all the benches to sell them. Expats that live here, we bought a bench, and an artist came and designed patterns that you came and we all did the work on the benches, and broke tiles and glued them in all these beautiful. If you go and Google Tile Park in Puerto Vallarta, you'll see it's extraordinary. It's hard to explain how beautiful it is. But uh, there's a news reporter, Linda Ellerby, and also she was Nick News for 23 years, the host and creator. She's one of my best friends here in Puerto Vallarta. And she bought a bench, and it was dedicated to the Rainbow Bridge for animals. So we all went there and tiled this beautiful rainbow. It has some tiles of her dogs that had passed on, and and this bench is dedicated to the passing of animals.
oh
So, but
wow.
I'm like you. I don't want a souvenir. I don't want to make their ashes into a diamond or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
no, it's like, mm, they live here, not. And the problem now, I travel so much that in Mexico, it's not hard to bring a dog back and forth to Mexico, but I travel so much, it's just not fair to have dogs. And so we are the best dog sitters you would ever want. If you're going out of town for a couple of weeks or a month, just call me and I'll take care of your animal. And that gives me my animal fix.
But you don't have, like, well, I guess, yeah. Because if you had cats, you still would have to have someone watch them while
Oh
you're
yeah.
gone.
I had a cat that lived, she was, I think, 22 years.
Oh, wow.
So
It must have been so weird to see her go from a kitten to like an old lady.
yeah, yeah. But I did something horrible once. I had this black cat, and I loved this cat. And I was going through some stuff in my life that wasn't, it was a difficult time for me. And I wasn't paying attention to my cat. It was in Burbank, California. And I was ignoring the cat. I mean, it was being fed and all that stuff, and it could go indoors or outdoors. It was, had a house. And one day I'm laying in my bed, and the cat comes into my room, looks at me, and pees on the floor. And I yell at it, of course. It runs out the door, and it never came back. It had had it with
But
me.
it left the house?
It left me for good. It was saying
Oh, wow.
goodbye. It said, screw you. How dare you mistreat me? And of course, I looked for it. but I found out that it had adopted, a neighbor had adopted the cat, and I thought, you know what, this is where it. And I love the cat. It wasn't that I didn't love the cat, but I was just out of it for a while, and the cat was just saying, no, you're not treating me well. Goodbye. And it lived down the
It gave
street.
you a last pee before he went.
I did. It was so deliberate and it was so powerful. It like, whoa, you know. Yeah.
Well, you've done a lot of shows that involve animals in some way, whether it's the theme or like, animals being in the show. Is that partly because you really are passionate about animals, or is that just something that naturally happened and that's just the trajectory
Oh,
it went?
you're lucky to get a job. I started a movie with Valerie Bertinelli called Chomps, Canine Home Protection System. It's Hanna-Barbera, and where I invent a mechanical watchdog that becomes, it's like a Disney film. And we had all the dogs in there. But then I did a movie with snakes where I got eaten by snakes, and we had live snakes. So those are some of the pets I didn't want. Some of those animals, yeah, we don't want to do those movies again with the snakes, because I had to wrap them around my head, and it was, oh my God, it was terrifying. And live snakes all over eating me and
Oh.
stuff like that. No, thank you. In fact, I screamed. I was doing a scene, and it was a thing, and they were all killing me, and all these. They were live snakes. There had been a guy with an aquarium. He was a snake wrangler. It's like a giant aquarium, and it had tons of snakes inside this aquarium, sizes, different colors, everything a director could want. But now, of course, they were non-poisonous. So before I'm filming this scene, he hands me a big gopher snake. And I've got this gopher snake. I'm so stupid. I got this gopher snake, and I'm petting him like a puppy, and we're talking with the trainer and the actress that's in the show with me. We're just petting it, and of course the snake is done has had it with me and rears up and starts to strike my face, and the handler puts his hand in front of my face, and the snake bit his hand.
Oh.
And his hand had been all gnarled from snake bites from all the years he'd been handling snakes. And as soon as the snake did that, they go, Wesley, on stage. And I go, what? Wait, I was shaking like this. The snake just tried to attack me. And then they took all these snakes and wrapped them around me. And I had to like pretend they were biting me and screaming and stuff with real snakes, not rubber snakes. I scared the snakes so much that they released themselves all over me because I was going, ah! I scared them. And the smell, I ran, they said, cut. I ran, took my clothes off, jumped in the shower, and the director comes out and goes, okay, that was good. Let's do it again. I go, oh, no, we're done. You got it. You got it. So sometimes working with animals doesn't work out. So, but
Well, at least
that's a
it
movie.
prepared you.
And that was a movie called Jennifer. Anyway, back in the 70s.
Yeah, I have to admit I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
Is it Jennifer, and it's about being attacked by snakes? I don't know if I want to see that though.
There was a movie called Carrie, which has become a cult film, and it was their answer to Carrie, this high school girl getting bullied by all of us in high school, where I was the bad boy, and she can conjure snakes. So she has this
Oh.
power. And the last scene that we went into a soundstage, and they had a Mercedes convertible, and they had a boa constrictor that was so big they were able to wrap the boa constrictor around the Mercedes convertible twice. It was
Oh
huge.
my
It took
goodness.
about 8 men to hold the snake, to handle it. And they told us, we went in there to film, and they said, stay by the door. It's a big soundstage, a giant soundstage, when this Mercedes convertible was way in the corner with the snakes. And they said, go over there, way over there by the exit. And if the snake starts to charge, run out the door, because they can go really fast. It was terrifying. So if it's the end
Well,
of the movie, if you ever see Jennifer, you'll see this giant boa constrictor.
well, I was gonna ask you because nowadays, and in a good way, things are much safer in the sense of there's so much AI, and it detracts at some points, and then other times it doesn't. But it's because it can be overused to the point where everything seems just so fake and unreal. But there's also this aspect where you can, you'll have like wild animals that aren't actually there, but they look real. And so then the actor interacts with the animal that isn't really there. But back in if we're talking about 70s, 80s and stuff like that, I mean, I don't even, because I don't remember when it stopped, but I mean, there were films, I think, in even Audrey Hepburn's era when, horses would be in war scenes. They die. They might break their
And,
leg because they're just like, they're real horses and they're all stampeding and they're reenacting a battle. And
well,
there
and
wasn't
that's
really
no. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead.
No, that's why
Oh,
the
I was
age.
just saying,
No,
go
go ahead,
ahead.
Danielle. Go ahead.
I was just asking, I wanted to ask you, like, from the time that you started acting till now, I mean, did you like how was that as an actor? I mean, you didn't really have all the special, things to keep you completely safe, and then the animals weren't always safe and things could go wrong. Like you said, like they said just bolt out if the snake actually just gets free.
Yeah.
There weren't actually anything to do if it did. So I wondered for you, like, how is that's evolved a lot since your time.
It definitely is evolved. It's getting faster and faster. I mean, you can animate your own TV show now. When I did Dragon Tales, I mean,
Yeah.
we had a staff and artists and stuff like that. Now, some computers can do so much of it. But when I did Land of the Lost, I played Will Marshall in that show, and we had dinosaurs, and they were stop frame dinosaurs. So they were on film, and they had the stop frame animators, which now you don't need, except there was something so charming about them, so 70s and 60s about them. But we had our dinosaurs were actual, they were little models, and we were superimposed to fit into the screen, so the dinosaurs looked bigger than us. Uh, so that was fabulous. And I remember the first week of the show, we were on the actors, we were on green screen, which is now blue screen, or blue screen, which was now green
Mhm.
screen back in the day. And the dinosaurs, which were, stop frame motion, were film, and we were videotape, and they were melding the two of us live, and it didn't work. And they panicked because that was a show, and they like were like
Oh
everybody's like, "Oh
no.
my god, it doesn't work!" And they were running around, and they got the Disney guys, the animators, that week. They spent the whole week working on it, and they broke records and won awards for this technology. They were suddenly able to take film and videotape and make them meld together, and that's was the magic of Land of the Lost for 3 years.
No, but I, I appreciate it. I don't know if, have you ever seen the old Narnia, like the BBC
Oh
Narnia?
yeah,
The very original. Yeah. I watched the new Narnia and I did like it. I did. I liked the acting. I thought the music is beautiful. But there was something about the beavers in the old Narnia that
mm,
were people in these beaver suits walking around with these big wax tails that would follow them and the teeth that were like browned by stained whatever. And I loved them. And then the new beavers came in the newer one, and obviously they were animated and they were more real, as we would say, right? But it
yep,
just didn't feel the same as the old beavers. And so, and I guess we take it for granted now, though, that things are supposed to look so cool, and special and visual. And so when we go back and we watch films from the 1970s, 80s, we're like, wow, that's really stupid. Now we're so
right,
advanced and far. But I really I don't know, there's, like you said, there is something so charming about like the robotic animals, like the robotic Aslan and the Narnia, the old one. And I don't know, we laugh now, but I always found it really, I don't know, endearing. I mean, you can advance it now, maybe make it look a little, more crystal clear, better. But
right.
I don't know. There was something fantastical about them being kind of not so like sharp,
I
you
agree.
know?
When you did Dragon Tales, what surprised me is there was a study done about animation, because suddenly we have 3D animation. It looks so real. The Disney animation and Pixar and all that
Yeah.
looks. I mean, it's so three dimensional. But they did a study, and they found that the two-dimensional animation, which is like The Simpsons and stuff like that, are Dragon Tales, and compared to the 3D animation, that you have more of an emotional response to the 2D than you have to the 3D. I don't know if it's the
Oh,
imagination is
why?
working over time. It's
Huh.
creating it. There is a different connection the audience has. Now that may change as kids only see 3D from now on. If they're never exposed to, of course we do have The
Yeah.
Simpsons and family, all the Family Guys and all that kind of stuff. But I found that fascinating because I thought, oh no, they're going to want to see the 3D. No, they want to see it flat on screen.
That's so interesting. I do wonder why that is. Maybe it is an imagination thing.
Well,
I wonder
the next time you watch,
why.
if you watch a cartoon, anything, or The Simpsons, and then watch something else, see how you feel. I mean, you can do an experiment yourself and just see, do I have the same emotional attraction and attachment to this? And I think part of it is it's so real that if it's 2D, it's not real. So your imagination is a powerful thing, and it creates this world, your own
Oh,
world.
okay.
If it's 3D, all you sit and you just become the observer, not the participant. That's kind of my theory on it. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's always how I felt. And I felt the same way. It was when animation gets too slick for me. It's like, okay, it's not something that I'm as interested in. And I love Disney films, and I love all the 3D stuff, and I do love it. But
Yeah.
there is a lack of soul that's happening, especially with AI and stuff. That the animated dogs and the horses and stuff like that. There is something missing. There is and that just me being a purist and but there.
No, I mean I agree with you. Do you remember like the movie The Snowman? Like the snowman, the boy that would fly in the air?
I don't remember
Did
that.
you ever watch that? It's like
I remember.
I think it's based on a book, but it's where Walking in the Air, that song is played
Yeah.
but it's about this boy and this snowman that fly in the air. And it's so simple animation compared to now. I don't know what type of animation it is because I know there's so many different ones, but I feel the same way. Like there is something very magical about something that isn't, that that's just like, I'm thinking now of, what was that one that recently came out? I really enjoyed it. It was almost an old fashioned type of animation. Or maybe it was claymation. It was about the snail. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
It was
I
something the snail.
It was a drawing. I'm not
Yeah, 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 yeah. And it was about animal goes through grief. He loses his grandmother,
right.
and he lives in this little house, and he gets interviewed by the TV show. But it was just like, it was such a simple animation, but I was crying so hard. It was something so sweet about it. Yeah, I mean, I'm just with you on that. I mean, it's cool now and then to see special effects of things, but then it does feel kind of distant for me. It just doesn't
You,
feel the same.
imagination. They're doing a lot of studies with cell phones and stuff and trying to limit kids' exposure to cell phones. And unless we, as a society, put down these instruments that are totally, have somebody else has been creating what you're watching, somebody else has created, and you don't find quiet time to create your own, to use your own imagination, there's a huge loss in
Hmm.
learning, in sociability, and working with other people and stuff. I know there's some schools and stuff that are taking away cell phones, and there's quiet time where people need to just think. Doesn't matter what you think about,
Hmm.
just think. Inventions, and that's where our inventions come, or our great new stories come. Our great stories don't come from watching somebody else's story. It comes from our
Hmm.
experience in our mind, I think, at least in my world. And it's those quiet hours alone. You're just thinking and contemplating or working out a problem that leads to a story or leads to a new thought. And I just want everybody to have all the new thoughts. Um, I sound like Mr. Wilson, get off my lawn, but it's important. It's important for all of us to take the time to put everything down, all of this away, all this technology, and just imagine. That's, that's the joy of my life. And that's one of the things we talk about Mexico. I put myself on, I walk the Malecon and by the ocean and stuff, and every morning and just watch the ocean and people and the birds. And we have plenty of whales this time of the year, so watch those whales just jumping out of the water up here. So those are the kind of
Do you?
moments.
Oh, I
I'm,
was just gonna say, do you think people don't necessarily like thinking so much because first, I mean, and this, I'm gonna ask you this, my opinion. I find it hard personally to think and to think well, if that makes any sense. So usually if I'm sitting and I have nothing to distract myself with, I'm going to think about what I have to do in the next hour, what I have to do tomorrow, what I have to do, 10 years from now. If I'll be alive 10 years from now, if I'm not alive 10 years from now, what will my loved ones, how will they get on or do whatever they're supposed to do? And so I feel like it's a discipline to think well and even to imagine, like let your mind go to places and imagine things and do something positively. And I'll tell you, I've had kids come up to me, little kids, because I work with kids in Sunday school, and I'll have little kids come up to me at times asking these profound questions, which are good questions, but some of them are like really serious, serious questions. Like they're not, they're more fear-driven questions as opposed to imaginative. And it's, you're kind of like, there's a sadness to it because you see a little bit of the childhood dripping away, when they ask that really, really hard question that is a good question, but that you wish they were asking later in life as opposed to, at such a young age. And um I don't know, like how do you even balance that? Or how do you, like, as you're walking that beach, as you're, looking at the creation around you and being present and enjoying imagination and thinking, which I feel like requires a very peaceful space. How do you kind of sort that out between that and just distraction, you know?
I don't think there's a difference. I think there's no rules. Just whatever you think, whenever you think it, is fine. It's what you want to be thinking. There's a reason you're thinking it. If you're working out something or whatever, but just get bored. Just be bored. Make sure as soon as you get bored, don't grab something to not be bored. Just let boredom
Uh,
lead the way, because those are where the great discoveries and things will come from. I think believe me, I love the internet. I love technology. I use it. I mean, I trust me. I mean, I'm not a naysayer, and I create websites. I can do. I mean, I'm as current as I can be on technology, but disconnect, be bored. That's the greatest gift you can give yourself. And I think there's certainly the research is showing that actually psychologically and physically that it is a really benefit to somebody's life.
yeah. What do you remember something you did when you were really bored that you're proud of? That you were like, wow, I'm really glad I was bored in that moment and did that.
Boy, well, I've written books, and
Yeah.
I that's a solitary time. That's you disconnect. It's right. It's all here. And my first book I hand wrote it, my first novel. So I didn't even have a computer back then. A friend of mine was a movie reviewer on E Entertainment, and he was the movie reviewer, Bill Harris, and he had a prop. He didn't even know how to use it. It was a prop on the set for E Entertainment. So to be in the background, so it looked like he was up to date technology back in the day. So he would film every 2 weeks, the movie review. So I would get his computer for the 2 weeks while he wasn't using it just as a prop on the set. And I started learning how to use it, just to type and stuff. But I only used that after I'd handwritten everything to put it into a computer to type what I'd handwritten. But
Wow.
that's, but as a writer and that is a solitary profession. It's something, you have to shut
Yeah.
everything off and go into your world and create the characters and live their lives and let them show you where they should be.
Isn't it you've written is it 5 books?
Yeah, mostly
Did you
humor.
have
Go ahead. I'm
is
sorry.
there a favorite one? I was just gonna say, is
The
there
Red
a
Wings of
favorite one?
Christmas. Red Wings of Christmas,
Yeah.
which is CNN called it the new American classic, and it was optioned by Disney. I wrote the screenplay and the songs. It's sitting on a shelf. um, but that to me was, that was my story of a little boy in the 1850s, washed overboard as a baby into the Thames River, and raised by this old washerwoman. And one night, he's all alone. He's lost everything. It's very Dickensian. It's a tragic, tragic night of his life, and something falls on him under the bridge, and it turns out to be Father Christmas's toy sack. And he's cold. He doesn't know what it is, and he's warm. He opens it up, and there's warm air, and he crawls inside for the night, thinking it's a cave. And he begins to fall and tumble, and he enters this world where every broken toy goes, because no toy has ever been left behind. When a toy knows it's never to be played with, because even a broken toy can be played with, but when the toy knows that it's not to be played with anymore, the heart of the toy comes out, and it breaks in half, and it circles the toy to make sure it's truly that toy's time to go. And when it knows that time, it lights on the back of the toy and unfurls, and becomes these large red wings of Christmas. And they fly every broken toy onto a journey back into Father Christmas's toy sock. And there's an infinite world where no child has been before, where every toy goes back to be modernized, repaired, whatever it takes to be ready to find another family. And that's the story of this little boy who's 8 years old in the 1850s, who enters this world that no child has been, and what he discovers and finds about himself is what the story's about.
Where did you get such an idea?
Well, being bored. But, just listen. Well, we have a dog barking now. Welcome to Mexico. If I open the window, there's going to be a chicken out there in a few minutes. Look at me, I bet you here. But, you know, I was raised in a single family home. My dad left when I was 2. I never saw him again, met once in my life before he passed. I came from a different world, a broken world. And I think it was really, when my sister, and I have one sister, she read my book. She said, "Wesley, this is your autobiography." I go, "No, it's a little boy in 1850s. He's a kid, and and she says, "It's your story. It's your broken heart. It's your finding warmth, finding a home,
Hmm.
Woo. Finding that family, that where you belong, in a world that you just don't fit in." And she said, "It's your story." And I reread my book, and I go, I think my sister's got something. She's right.
But how cool it was that your sister was the one to tell you that. Someone close to you. That it wasn't just because there's it's different when a stranger says something to you, you're kind of like, okay, but it doesn't always stick with you the whole time. But someone who knows you and like knows some of your story and says that about a book you've written, I mean, that's profound for you. Like that's like, wow, I didn't see it that way.
But I think that's, again, as anybody that writes or creates, you're really telling your story. It's from your perspective, and all the characters have, at least in my world that I created, have something to do with something I've known, someone I've known, some element, of someone. Some of the characters in Dragon Tales, and like Zack and Wheezy, the two-headed dragon, which was my creation. Um, you bring your life into your work, and if you don't have a life,
Hmm.
you can't bring any work into the world that's, I think, that has
It's true.
long-term value.
It's true. Yeah,
Otherwise,
I agree.
you're just a consumer. Just sit
Yep.
there and watch. So, you know,
Or maybe you make products to just consume. I think there's a beauty to when a product or something, a story, anything has so much meaning that people are resonating with it.
You know?
It goes beyond just what it is. But I do think you're right. I think some things have just really become a way to they don't have really much of a purpose, beyond just kind of a shallow. And I wonder, that's so interesting that you say that. Like, if you're not being honest with what you think and portraying that or asking hard questions, are you really creating something that's worthwhile? I mean, I think that's a really good question.
And listen, I am guilty as anybody going down the rabbit hole with TikTok and YouTube, and suddenly 3 hours later, I'm like, I mean, I do it. Of course I do it. It's part of our culture and it's fabulous. I love all that. But think of all the inventions, and we're not thinking just entertainment and, writing shows or books or anything. We're talking about the technical, the vaccines, the problem solving of things that maybe someone can solve that hasn't been solved before, the creation of things like products. Those are the things too that need somebody to step back. Now you certainly you can learn very much as, the internet's a learning tool, but if you use it, it's extraordinary. It's the biggest encyclopedia
Yeah.
in the world. And, you get to, and it will stir you that you've seen and go, oh my God, I have a solution for that. So there's a yin and yang to it. It's not, there's a balance to all of this. And I just hope that people just step back and just recapture some of that boredom, because it's a really lovely place to go. But believe me, when I get bored here, sometimes I go, okay, I got to open my phone. I just want to go TikTok. I just want to go watch. Go, stop, just stop with that thing down. And look, there's an ocean. There's birds. There's people and then talk to people. We'll go to the coffee shop here in Mexico. Just whoever's next to me, we start a conversation. Hopefully, a new friend.
Is the coffee good?
Yeah, there's a Starbucks right down the street. Coffee is great here. We go to the local coffee shops, but we also go to Starbucks. So,
is like the local coffee good?
Oh yeah. And there's one guy, there's a family that raises the coffee up in the mountains here. Not Juan Valdez, but another family, and their kids come to town. They're an extraordinarily successful family, and they walk around the street with, their organic coffee, and they sell it, person to person down the street, so. Are you going to the stores and buy
Gosh.
it? But there's
you gotta.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you gotta start a coffee line based on all your movies, and you could have animal texture scents.
I think there's enough coffee. In fact, why, hi. Have you tried Wesley's new coffee?
And listen, if you're bored one day, you never know.
There you go. See, now maybe you've started your own coffee line right now.
You're right, but the problem is I only can have decaf coffee.
But there you go.
So maybe I would have to make like really interesting decaf coffee, maybe.
Coffee,
Wesley,
call it coffee adjacent.
Ahead.
Coffee adjacent. Your decaf.
Yes, I like that. A window to a new world where hearts don't skip beats and you don't get this addicted buzz. Yeah, I like that. Think about that. But Wesley, it's been such a gift to talk with you. Like, I came into this conversation thinking, I'm going to talk to this man about his acting career and stuff. And we did hit on that a little bit. But like, the story about the monkey, Frankie, was so sweet. And then you had your stories about animals on set, and then talking about imagination and talking about even the power of boredom, and that can be a tool to make things that are really meaningful and that can get you to think about things. And then your Christmas story. This has been really good. I feel like I've gotten to know you a little bit, just a tiny bit. And that's my goal. So I'm so grateful. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Dana. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I do.
Well, enjoy your ocean. Get your fan on.
I know.
Thank you for turning it off for me.
I'm about to head out the door, go to the beach. I'm meeting friends. We're going to watch the sunset. We're going up on top of a building to look at the sunset and the whales. and that'll be the end of my night.
Okay, sounds good to
Not
me.
bad,
I'm gonna
huh?
go make dinner, so mine's not as fun. Yeah, mine's not as fun. So, bye.
Adios.